Hi, y'all. Happy non-denominational winter fun time. Hope your time has been as fun as mine. 'Cause I know I've had a really fun day today during this specific non-denominational winter fun time. And as a non-denominational winter fun time present to myself, uh, and also due to the fact that I received on vinyl three of these records that I'm going to be talking about, I decided to be talk about just my top four, kind of in more of a, I guess, thematic breakdown than anything. This isn't a review, obviously. All of these records that I'm going to be talking about are 10 out of 10s, obviously, and I recommend them, obviously. But I just kind of want to talk about the different thematic aspects of it of them that appeal to me, and yeah, I mean, I don't really have any point that I'm trying to get to with this. There isn't really a moral, I guess, to this at all. I just kind of want to talk about it because it's fun. So, here we have, some of you might know, my favorite record, debatably. I mean, it's been up for debate recently, but Sufjan Stevens' Michigan I got for a present today. Um, and this album has been my favorite since like the second time I listened to it. I'm just like, wow, this album is amazing. I mean, look at this. It's a good. Anyway, uh, so yeah, the album kind of thematically is just. It's an album about depression, I think, and I know that's not necessarily an unexplored topic, but I think he does a good job of exploring just the range of emotions that a depressed person feels. It's more about clinical depression than the emotion of depression. The entire album isn't sad. Um, Even though there are a great many sad moments on it. In the same way that a depressed person isn't constantly sad, but even their more positive emotions are still kind of filtered through this lens of depression, and that's what I think Michigan does really well. Even of course, there are, like I said, a myriad of crushingly sad tracks. The opener, Flint, hits you like a sucker punch in the gut. Just like, oh my god, I'm gonna cry. When the horns come in, Susie's like, even if I died alone, you bawling your eyes out. Minute one of the album. Uh, and there's songs like Romulus, which is my pick for saddest song of all time. You know, Tons of songs like that. But then you have more uplifting songs like, God, what's the name of it? Let me check the back real quick. All Good Naysayers. Speak Up or Forever Hold Your Peace. That song is pretty uplifting, but you still kind of feel in the lyrical content that it's being marred by something. And same with songs like "Say Yes to Michigan," is a very happy piece, especially in its composition, but lyrically and also in the composition, you can tell it's very much filled with kind of regret. It's a very nostalgic piece that does a very good job of getting the bitter and sweet aspects of nostalgia to blend just so fantastically together. And the closer on this album, I mean, all my favorite albums have closers that really tie in thematically, and Michigan, I think, definitely has the strongest closer out of all of them, even of the album that it's in competition with for my favorite album. The end track, Vito's ordination song, just, oh my god, I don't even know how to describe it. Like I said, the album's kind of about depression, just living with that. Vito's ordination song, like, okay, so Flint, I feel like, in the life of a depressed person, is when you're getting ready to go to bed after just a horrible day. Uh, you just you feel like absolute crap, and just the world is dark, and and you just cry. And then the song, the rest of the album feels just like just going through a day in that life. And then Vito's Ordination song is like the end of, a hard day, but a good day. And you think back on all the experiences of your life, and you think forward, to living life with this thing, depression that you'll have to combat, forever. And, you're crying, but then while you're crying, you got a hopeful little smile going through your tears. It's just, it's so good. I love it so much. I love this album so much. Give it a little. Mwah. It's amazing. So that's the first album. Second album, which is also in contention for my favorite album, and this has been a bit more of a recent one for me. Strawberry Jam by Animal Collective. I also have Merriweather Post Pavilion in there, which was one of my top 4 until I started listening to Strawberry Jam. But Strawberry Jam, I guess, kind of in contrast to Michigan, which is all about depression, I feel like this is kind of all about mania. Or maybe more like manic depression, bipolar disorder or something. Because, there are highs on this album. Peacebone, the opening track. It has this ridiculous, crazy, frantic opening. You feel like you're in video game hell. And then it goes through the song, and it's this, it's really kind of poppy, upbeat. Why? You're like, I like this. And then the closer as well kind of goes back into that spooky, like, unnerving kind of instrumentation that the opening went into. And it just feels very, like, conflicting, but it all blends together very well. And that kind of goes on through the different songs. Songs like Chore is just this really energetic song, just really spastic, like, feel like you need to catch your breath after listening to it. And then it also has this little kind of reprieve at the end that feels not necessarily scary, but just kind of very bizarre, like you're having an out-of-body experience or something. And songs like Winter Wonderland, it's like you're an ADHD kid having fun in the snow. You're just like, whoa, look at all the snow! And that's kind of like the feeling that it inspires within you. Then you have a song like Cuckoo Cuckoo, which makes you feel like you're going crazy. I mean, as the song kind of says, we're all going cuckoo. But it's hard to describe. With an instrumental that feels at once kind of very simple and almost calming, can also, when placed in the context of the chorus especially, can feel just ridiculously just uncomfortable and like you just need to go away or something like that. I mean, that's the best way I can describe it. And the closer, Safer, I mean, it's an appropriate closer in ways that I can't describe. Like, it's an incredibly complex piece, emotionally. If I had to describe, I guess I'd compare it to be like the opposite of Vito's Ordination song on Michigan, where, you're, like I said, this is, I guess somebody who has bipolar disorder, I would say this Strawberry Jam is about. It's the opposite of the person who has depression, because you're saying, yeah, it'll be okay, but, while you're crying and having like an emotional breakdown, kind of asking the people in your life not to leave you while you're trying to work through this, and you're just having a real bad time. So, in certain ways, Strawberry Jam's a bit more depressing than Michigan, because I don't think Strawberry Jam has nearly as uplifting of an ending. But also, an amazing album. Even if I'm a bit less articulate in my thoughts about it, just because it's not as a distinct, I guess, of an emotional core as Michigan has. But, it's still God tier. Mwah! On that one too. So, either my third or fourth, I'm not sure. My third and fourth spot are kind of in contention, so this will just, these last two will just be whatever. Um, this is the one I don't have a physical copy of. Beck's Mutations. Now, I know what you're thinking. You patrician out there, because I know you're watching. All of you out there. Beck, isn't he, like, not even that good? And a lot of, maybe, like, a bit more than half the time, that is a correct assumption. But Mutations is really good. Okay, so I'm just stop defending that and just say that. The thematics of Mutations are just really interesting to me. I don't know if they're quite as poignant or quite as uniquely expressed as the emotional cores of Michigan or Strawberry Jam, but I feel like it's unique enough in terms of what it's trying to convey that I like it anyway. Or maybe even not that the message itself is unique, or it just appeals to me personally because it's just a concept that I find interesting. I think kind of the concept of Mutations is decay. The general concept of decay. It's like you're living on a ghost town, or like a town that's becoming a ghost town in the Old West, but then also it's the entire Earth. Songs like Cold Brains, which is the opener on the album, just, it feels, kind of impactful, but you get the feeling that it's kind of fleeting as well, and that's the same with some of the other songs in the album. You have Canceled Check, which is, just like a really fun, kind of honky-tonk sounding song, but also has a lot of kind of gross things. There's like there's all these more kooky sound effects in the background that denote that something is wrong, I guess. The only song, and then most of the rest of the songs fit into this kind of country music with a lot of really, with a lot of lyrics that really kind of hammer home that theme of decay. Like one of my favorite lyrics on the song Dead Melodies, night birds will cackle, rotting like apples on trees. It's just really, really striking imagery to me. And that kind of sums up, I think, thematically what I like about the album. The only song that doesn't really fit into that, like I was saying, is Tropicalia. Although it still kind of shows a kind of decay and just gross thing. It's more about, like, being on a tropical island and tourists exploiting local people. But, I mean, that's still a really good song, so I don't think it takes away from the album, per se. It just doesn't quite fit into the narrative as strongly. And the closer, Diamond Bollocks. Well, I guess I need to talk. The penultimate song, Static, is this really kind of very pleasant, very quiet song for the most part. It's just really gorgeous and feels like an appropriate album ender for a song that, or for, yeah, an appropriate album ender for an album that is about decay. Kind of fades off into nothing, very prettily, but in a way that seems final, like, bam. And then the song Diamond Bollocks, which is the album ender, starts up, and it's like, that Earth ghost town that was decaying and everybody was leaving from? Well, here we're going. We're on a spaceship. We're going somewhere else. It's like, that's the feeling you get. You feel like you're on a spaceship blasting away from Earth, and you're really scared because you don't know what's going on. And I feel like that's the Diamond Bollocks isn't necessarily my favorite track, but it is really interesting thematically because the track itself is very kind of uncomfortable and strange and not formatted, not structured very standardly, I guess, even in comparison to the rest of the album. And I think that kind of serves to show how even in cases where people are despairing and things are decaying all around them, change is still scary. Even in cases where change pretty much only means positive things could happen, people are still worried about it, and I think that's really kind of poignant. So yeah, that one. And then, finally, this is one I want to talk about also, and this one I also have on physical. Death Grips, this is a double album, but Niggas on the Moon. Uh, so this album, I feel like, is just kind of the ultimate expression of depravity. The album kind of basks in as many vices as it can stand to express. You know, a song "Up My Sleeves" just feels very wrathful, and you're just like, you want to beat up a table when you're listening to it. Just so explosive and raw, but at the same time, really also dirty to make you feel, so you don't feel like you have righteous indignation, but just a very base, guttural, human anger. And you have other songs like "Say Hey Kid," which is just a very bizarre track that kind of creeps you out a little bit, but at the same time, you feel kind of. It's fun to get into the character of Stefan on that track and just be that kind of creepy weirdo talking about how you like to suck on this dude's wife's neck and drive a bus and sell a tent. Songs like Voila, like Stefan's talking about being like a dark wizard. Like he's, I mean, that's how I interpret the lyrics. I don't know. He's talking about casting voila to people, and it's just like this horrible curse that is upon him and that he can give to other people, and it's just doing horrible things. And the song "Fuck Me Out," one of the most disgusting tracks, I guess, I've ever heard, but, like a pig rolling in mud, it's kind of, it's undeniably fun to wallow in the filth of that track. And it's also, the album as a whole is kind of like, a big train wreck. You gotta look at it, even if it's disgusting, and you're like, but it's so bad and immoral, I don't want to look at it, but it's so good that you just gotta. And then the closing track, Big Dipper, definitely one of my favorite songs on the album. I'd say probably my favorite too on this album are the opener and closer. But Big Dipper just very much feels like taking all of the things, all of the vices, all of the sins that were talked about on the rest of the album, kind of gathering them up into one song, to one big ball of dark energy, and just embracing it, Just being like, yes, this is me, this is who I am. Even though the entire album is kind of about that, you really feel it when it comes in on Big Dipper. Where Stefan just talks about who he is. He's a bullshitter. He's a straight dog off kilter. He's a bit bewildered. He's a frickin' downer. Binge Thinner Big Dipper. Just amazing song. And also the instrumental break after, like the song itself is done, I guess. Just, ooh. Just, that really makes you feel like it's like a thing in Dragon Ball Z or something. If you ate like this big ball of dark energy, and then like your body gets all fucked up, that's what the instrumental break after Big Dipper feels like. If that makes any sense. So, I'm going to kiss this one specifically, not the actual front of the cover, because Jenny Death is not as good as Niggas on the Moon and Drags It Down. But anyway. So yeah, this is a long-ass video, and hopefully I don't sound like too much of an autist talking about most of these. And, again, happy non-denominational winter fun time, everybody.